Hello, everybody, and welcome to Haiku Talk. I'm your host, Ben Ga, your friendly neighborhood haiku poet. And today we're going to be taking a look at a piece from the latest issue of Kingfisher. This comes to us from poet Debbie Strange with the first line of Roofless Barn. With that said, you know what time it is. It's time to sit back, relax, grab yourself a tasty beverage, and let's haiku. Welcome back, everybody. It's good to be with you again for another episode of Haiku Talk. And today we're going to be visiting a poem by Debbie Strange, whose work I've been admiring for many years. And again, this comes from the latest issue of Kingfisher, a delightful little book. Comes out twice a year. And the poem goes like this. Roofless barn. The stars begin to hoot. Roofless barn, the stars begin to hoot. Very delightful piece. And what's even more delightful is that on my way, I went up to pick up some food in my neighborhood from a restaurant about a block and a half away. And on the way, I got to spend some time looking at a beautiful barred owl. I was walking on the sidewalk beneath which was covered with some trees, and all of a sudden this shadow stuck out at me, and it swooped from one branch to another, and I looked up and oh, look at that. It's a beautiful barred owl. We have a couple of those in the neighborhood, along with a couple of great horned owls, and they're just such a delight when you get to see them. It makes, I usually do a tweet or snap a picture and talk about the hooty hoots being out. And so I got to see a hooty hoot tonight. And this poem is all about the hooty hoots, in this case, barn owls. And it's kind of a magical moment when they appear. The waking owl of the owls, the waking hour of the owls, because it seems to happen right around sunset, at least in this neighborhood, where they start to emerge and when you start to hear them. And so this poem definitely is fresh on my mind tonight. And the poem again goes like this. Roofless barn, the stars begin to hoot. Now this poem follows the fragment in the phrase structure, with the first line being the fragment of roofless barn, and the phrase being the stars begin to hoot. Let's break this down line by line and show how it works. So the very first line of roofless barn puts you immediately in a place. Immediately in a place. There aren't many parts of the world or locations that have barns, much less roofless barns. So we know we're out in the countryside somewhere. Perhaps it's in a forest. Perhaps it's in the woods, some hiking trail. For me, I'm just putting myself kind of right out in the Missouri countryside. I'm going for, in my mind here, I'm on a bike trail. It's getting dusk, and this bike trail is in the country, and passes by a roofless barn, which I've stopped and I'm now going to take a picture of because I'm fascinated with barns, especially old roofless barns. There's something very, I guess it's the wabi-sabi of them, and wabi-sabi is the beauty and the decay. It's a Japanese sensibility. In this case, it's not just a barn, but it's a roofless barn. So it's a barn in decay, but it's still very much visible as a barn. We recognize it as a barn of the structure of what it is, and we can see that it's still standing. It's still a remnant of something that was there before that is now gone. And it's just a lot of romanticism, a lot of story making in my head that happens when I encounter that line, roofless barn. It's a really great evocative line. And again, you want your first line to really be able to grab the reader's attention in your haiku or senryu, because you have a very short time to with them, and the sooner you can hook them, the better. Right off the bat, I'm hooked with this very kind of romantic kind of vision of a roofless barn. And then we go to line 2, and it's the stars begin. And so now, not only do I know where I am, but now I know what time of day this is. The stars begin. So it's twilight, which is another kind of magical type of evening. That point of not the day's not yet done, but night's not really fully set in. It's that kind of in-between phase, and you're starting to see the stars emerge. And, you know, a really nice, peaceful setting, outdoors, in the elements. And then we get to line 3, and we find out the stars are, I know they're beginning to be visible, but then they begin to hoot. To hoot. And that's a very playful third line, because we know stars don't hoot. And we know that that's not really what's happening here. The stars themselves aren't hooting. But we know that this time of day is when the owls start to come out. And we're starting to hear the hoots, the hooty hoots of the owls. And it's just this magical moment that's just captured here. And it's built so nicely from the barn, which causes you to pause and then notice the stars, and then you notice those owls starting to hoot. And man, what a moment, what a magical moment. And there's so much storytelling you can do in your head, and so many things you can connect this to if you want to reach out into different folklore and fairy tales, all sorts of stuff. But there's also just the pure beauty and appreciation of the magical moment at hand, as it is, as you experience it. And this is exactly the order of things. If you stop and you notice this barn, you notice the twilight, and then you sit long enough, and then the owls start to hoot. And really, you need nothing more than this. This is what a haiku is. It is that moment that is captured. It unfolds in the present tense. It's giving us just enough information to step into this moment and fill it in with the details of our lives. I'm sure if we went around and asked everybody that's encountering this YouTube channel or this YouTube video to describe their barn, everybody could with great detail. And the beauty of the haiku language here is it's in the 3 S's of haiku language: simple, succinct, and suggestive. We have simple and we have all 3 happening here. It's simple, it's succinct, and it's suggestive, because it says roofless barn. Roofless barn suggests, at least for me, a barn in decay. And so that allows me to paint this bigger picture about what I'm seeing, the scene that I see here. Now, having said that out loud, certainly one could encounter a roofless barn and it's a barn being constructed. And that might be where your mind goes right away. And that would be completely valid. Now, that said, as you pull through the rest of the poem, and having done that, you get to the end and you hear the owls. Generally, you won't have owls that have taken nest in a new barn that hasn't been built yet. So having completed the poem, you flip back through, and it helps color. I think it really paints a picture of a barn that is in decay, in decline. But that's me. That's me filling the spaces around this poem with elements of my life, things that I've seen, things that I want to see, the way I want to make this moment happen in my mind. It's beautiful. And it's just a fun, playful surprise at the end, because you're not necessarily, I wasn't expecting to hear owls, but it's such the time of day where you hear them, and it's such an appropriate place to hear them, and it's such an exciting thing when you happen to catch that, as I did earlier tonight. And so, such a wonderful poem. It is exactly as it is. It builds exactly as it would in that time of day. There's nothing's made up about this. It is a real life type thing, it unfolding in real time. It is what it is, and that's beautiful. We all need to make sure we pay attention to moments like this. These are the things the little magical, miraculous things that happen all the time, all hours of the day. We just have to be aware enough, present enough to realize it and to see it. And if you haven't experienced something like this, like hearing owls, next time you're out and about in a wooded area or around out in the countryside where you might be around an old barn, if you have the opportunity to go when the stars start to begin to make themselves known, good chance you might catch an owl. So thank you very much, Debbie Strange, for a wonderful piece. Thank you again, Kingfisher, for a wonderful, wonderful new issue. Thank you for tuning in. I hope all is well in your world. Until next time, cheers, everybody.